Welcome to this episode of Unmasked. I don't know if you need an introduction, Smoke, but I'll introduce you anyway. Smoke Wallin, who is host of the podcast Smoke Trails, and also CEO, entrepreneur, M&A, long list of journeys, including a very spiritual one. And right before I hit the record button, we were talking about being neurodivergent and talking about how crowds were problematic in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, I'm super happy to be here. Thank you. And loved having you on the Smoke Trail
Yeah, it was fun.
recently. We had a great conversation. So excited for this one. And totally. So crowds are interesting, right? Because people, it's an energy field and you're combining with all these other people. And big crowds, we can all look at history and say like crowds get out of control, right? Because the energy goes in different directions. And
Absolutely. Yeah,
when you become sensitive to energy, you have to really protect yourself, right? You have to understand that like there's a lot of things happening here, and I think there's tools and techniques for doing that. But I was going to tell you this story, which is when I first was, becoming more aware and started, receiving more information and being sensitive to energy. I was in this mode of like, I want to send positive energy to everybody and all this stuff. I want to help everyone. So I was at Kenny Chesney show in Charlotte, North Carolina, and it was, probably, I don't know, 70,000 people, filled stadium. And Kenny is a friend of mine, and I was helping him with one of his businesses, and so we were there as his guest, and we, hanging out with the, musicians
yeah,
and with Kenny, and but then, we're in this crowd and it's a 70,000 person stadium. And I was, and we got to go up on, there's like a stand in a concert, like in the middle of the floor of the stadium where it's like the sound booth or, and they're
right,
controlling everything. And
right.
on the roof of that, VIPs could be up there and watch the show from a really cool spot. So we went up there for a while. And I remember like looking at everyone partying, a lot of people having fun. And I was just like, oh, I'm just going to send everyone positive energy. So I just kind of up there, I'm just like sending energy, sending love to everybody. And I got, I guess what I would call like a boomerang thing. So that night I had I used to have gout and other ailments that all cleared up as I, you know, raised my consciousness, everything healed. And I hadn't had gout in, a couple of years. And I got a gout attack that night, and it like swelled up my foot, my ankle, and I was like, oh my goodness. And I fly home. I was like, what was that? And I ended up talking about it to some people, and I ended up kind of muscle testing to see like ruling out like what is this? Like, I mean, I'm not drinking, I'm not doing this. Like what was that? And it was that. It was like if you're not careful, you can basically I was sending energy out and I was getting it right back from the crowd, right? So I got all this like everyone's drinking, everyone's like people have low and high energy, emotions, and I got this like boom back into me and I wasn't protected. So yeah, you have to be careful in
Yeah,
crowds and don't go like sending love to everybody without like having a
protecting yourself. Yeah,
sphere of protection and really being conscious about what you're doing and not like just randomly like, oh, I'm just gonna send some stuff over here and yeah, think you're you're totally immune to it, but it can be very powerful.
it can absolutely be. And very important to protect yourself because even
Yeah,
being in that state where you're sending love out makes you vulnerable, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. And and it's for me all about our nervous systems. Like it's the room feels you for sure.
Yeah,
And you just have to make sure you protect your state as well. So that's
yeah.
such an interesting story and such a good example. So, Smoke, there's lots of places we could start because you have
Well,
so
we
many
went
things.
right in the deep end of the pool right there with energy,
We did right
right?
there. So that was obviously after you had your spiritual journey. Well,
Yeah,
start.
it's an ongoing journey, but
Yeah,
yes, it was after initial progress.
yeah. How do you, when you're working in M&A, how do you prepare yourself for walking into every room?
Well, what I do is I it's, you know, where it's your come from, right? So my come from is a state of peace and love. And so it's not about the deal or anything else. It's just about like being present and being there to be positive and create a great outcome for everyone involved. So I start with sending love to the meeting before I go to the meeting.
Yeah,
So I think about the room, I think about who's going to be there, and I, in kind of a meditative state, I'm like, I just think about that room and I imagine it being filled with divine love and light. So that's my prep. And then I show up and I try to be in that state. Right. If I have the opportunity, I'll do a short meditation before I walk in the room. And I just walk in very calm, open, and present. And that seems to work quite well.
for sure. People are attracted to an energy state, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, we can call it whatever we want, but it's still a positive energy state. That's why we're attracted to some people when they walk in a room. Like
Yeah.
you always see these people, and I can imagine that for you. You probably walk in a room, people love talking to you because you come with that energy. And some people, they come with whatever energy they happen to walk through the door with, without,
Sure. I mean, there's always like that, you know, that person who you can just feel it. Like they show up and like, you're like, whoa, I don't want to be around that. Right. Or like there's someone who walks in and it's like, wow, there's like light, right? It's like, oh, I want to talk to that person. So, but that's something that I've learned that we have a lot of control over.
yeah,
So if we are in a very present state and coming from that state, that's what that feels like. That's what that feels like to other people. And if you walk in and you're worried about something, you know, there's some, you know, you're having some issue with your family or you're having some business issue and it's like troubling you and you're ruminating on it and you're not clear and present, that's a different energy level. And you walk in and people can feel that.
yeah. I'm always interested about people who say, a bad day gets worse. Like it starts to spiral, like one bad thing happens and then another bad and another bad. And I often wonder when people will realize two things. One of them is you're actually something distorted you, something was a threat to your authority, credibility, or identity, which we talked about, is either, depending on your perspective, either stuck energy or it's hitting your fight, flight, stay, and your nervous system just distorts, runs an auto script. Or they're troubled, they're in a maybe not the best mood, because it could be mood too, but that they don't consciously think about changing their state before they walk into a room, which makes me think at the CEO level, it has to be that they're distorted because CEOs know that people experience them, right? Do,
Yeah.
don't you think? Like
Well,
we experience
I think
people.
not every CEO is as self-aware as others, right? There's a continuum of awareness.
Yeah.
But I think many do. That's in many cases why they became a leader because they are more self-aware and they were
Yep.
able to handle themselves. So generally speaking, yes, but you know, you get distorted in different ways and you forget. And you know, it's easy to get kind of caught up in mentations around things. I think what you said is very true. So when you wake up and you have say a negative thought that just comes through, you're thinking about something you're anxious about for whatever reason, like something pops up. And if you energize that thought, what happens is it's like cascading discs, right? So that first thought comes by, it is meaningless. But if you give it energy and you start ruminating on it, what happens is the next thought follows it. The next thought follows, and you energize that trajectory. So you're exactly right. What happens is you have a bad day, you start out on the getting off the wrong side of the bed, right? And all of a sudden you energize that and it cascades throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah. I just find it funny how we come up with sayings for things. It just hit me when you said you get up on the wrong side of the bed. So
Yeah.
at some point, somebody actually said, yeah, this happens to me. What is it? Oh, I just get up on the wrong side of the bed. It just
Yeah.
it's just funny if we start to think about that. What if is there something that people misunderstand about you or don't know about you that you wish they did?
that I wish they did. I'm sure there's lots of things people misunderstand about me. I don't know that I wish anything that I don't need to be understood. Um,
That's good.
and so I'm who I am, and people can humans will make judgments on people based on their own filters,
Yep.
their own programming. Um, you know, I have talked publicly quite a bit about childhood trauma and things that I experienced that I've, cleared. And I don't do that for any other reason than it might be helpful to relate to someone who also had some traumatic experience.
Yeah.
So, um, there may be people in my family or others who have judgment about talking about those traumas, thinking that it's something else. It's not. It was part of my healing process to be able to speak about things.
Yep.
That was definitely true. But today I don't have any need to talk about anything like that, other than if it helps the people who I'm talking to. So that might be a misconception that would be, it would I don't need people to understand me, but that is a under the behind the mask thing
I
that
know. I
is.
love that answer. I love that answer because you're actually the reason I ask that every time is because I want that genuine, authentic, and everybody answers the question with something. And you're the
Yeah.
first one to say, I don't care if people understand me. I'm not here to be understood. Like it's about our people who are our people because they get us right away. And if we're authentically being ourselves, then it doesn't matter what somebody else is judging us for, right? Because
Depending on our level of distortion, um, uh, positivity, love, bright light, clarity, um, truth can feel very off-putting. And so
that's right.
just inherently the way the system is built, the way the universe works, um, there will be people who have an aversion to the energy I bring to a conversation or to a presentation or a meeting because they have distortions and they can't they don't want to face truth. They don't want to face the light. Like it almost it recoil, right? Like, it's like we're all like little molecules bouncing around that are attracted to other like molecules,
Yeah,
and we're
exactly.
repelled by some.
Yeah,
So if you're a very negative person, that's going to repel someone who's very positive and light and and not that way. And if you're a very, very positive person who, is so if what you are exhibiting is closer to the true you, you're in a very, bright, light, positive place. That's gonna feel it's gonna create an aversion if someone has a lot of distortions.
absolutely.
Um, yeah, so it's like
And
so chasing acceptance or understanding among everyone is a futile, it doesn't work. You can't because it just by nature people are going to be at different places. So it'll resonate with the people who it should resonate with, and it will, not with others.
yeah, and I think really if we think about that statement, maybe the wish is because we always hope for people to find a way through to a better place. I mean, I do for humanity because some people, I'll call it wake up or be aware, discover themselves, find out how they can be happier and more connected to each other. And so I think when I say wish, I really mean, wouldn't it be a better world if everybody could be accepting of what all of us are and not automatically judge us? But I think the reality is when if you walk into a room and someone is judging you, I do think it's their distortion. Probably by your very presence, they get distorted because they're threatened at some level by how you how you are experienced. I know that
Yeah,
happens to me.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I'll let me one clarifying thing that I think something you said brings up for me, which is it's not that I don't wish for people to receive whatever I'm giving and to have understanding.
Yeah.
I have a preference. I would rather have them do that,
Yeah.
but it's just recognizing that not everybody's at the same place. So we're all,
Oh, I know.
at a certain level, in this realm, we're all these, we have duality. We're all these independent people, but at another level, we're not. We're one. We're one entity,
Yeah.
and so as you get closer to that oneness, you know, uh, you have a natural interest, desire of helping others see that too, because it's perfect peace. It is actually divine presence, and so yeah, I mean, so I think the more people wake up, the more we try to do things that can be helpful to others to see their own divinity inside. But it's a very I wouldn't say passive, but it's not a proselytizing, hey, you've got to, hey, shake this person, wake up, wake up. That's not what this is. It's when they're ready, your presence will help them.
Yeah.
But you can't make someone ready if they've got a lot of distortions and they're not willing to be ready. They're not like it's a choice. So we're sovereign beings we have a lot less free will than people think they do. But the one thing that we have free will about is, do you choose love or not? Do you choose, God or not, or however you want to think about it? But do you choose the source or not? And if you have an aversion to that because of distortions, that's a distortion. And until you're ready, and you know, help is available to everyone. You have to ask for it.
Yeah.
And that's not saying, hey, Leanne, I need help. It could be, or Smoke, I need help. It could be, ask the Buddha for help, or ask Jesus for help, or ask whoever you is in your lineage. That you, if you ask for help, you'll get it. And if you, and it, because that's a signal that your sovereign being is like, wait a minute, there's something I'm missing here, and I need help to see it. But if you choose, you have free will as independent, being in the space where you can choose not to. And there's lots of society that have shut off source, shut off love, and they think they're just independent beings that are, going to hear, going to live, going to get what they can get, and they're going to die. And they've shut off that source of power.
Yeah. And I think you've written a book about what you discovered on your journey,
Yes,
which
yes.
makes it so much easier too for people. Tell me the name of it again because I didn't
It's
retain it.
a smoke trail to the fire within.
To the fire within. That's
So
right.
it's just my journey, what I learned, and putting it in words that would have helped me along the way that might be helpful to others.
Exactly.
So it's not telling anyone like here's the only way. That's why it's a smoke trail. It's just my trail. And I learned a lot of things that I think would have been helpful to me if someone had laid it out for me earlier. So that's the intent is like, can I give someone a bit of a roadmap to like, here's what worked for me and pick what you want, pick what's helpful to you. And I did go deep and study a lot of traditions. So I went deep into, mystic Christianity to the Buddha teachings to the Hindu teachings and even the Kabbalah a bit, which is harder to read. But I studied a lot of these different lineages, and so for me, it was a process of learning and then cultivating what worked for me and bringing that into my life, my routines. And so that's what the book's about. Just kind of here's what I learned and here's what was useful to me, and if it's helpful to you, great.
What was the biggest difference before? Because you spent some time being silent. And what is the before and after? Like, was there a real definitive of what happened during that time of silence that you felt there was a big difference? Excuse me, big difference?
So it's what I find is the more aware you become and the more present you become, the more it's kind of hard to remember what it was like before. So the book was kind of like I've gone back and forth as I put it together of like, what was I thinking back then? What would have been useful? It's harder. It is hard to remember because it's like as your consciousness expands,
Exactly.
you don't remember what you didn't know, right? So you know more. What I would say the biggest shift that happened reasonably early on was becoming aware of thoughts and emotions and sensations and recognizing them as not me, but as energy that's flowing through me. And so once you realize that, your thoughts aren't really yours, your emotions are not really yours, they're just energies that you're processing based on circumstance or whatever's happening. And the thoughts that you have will change depending on what state of vibration you are in. So if you are, and they're generic, honestly. Like we all think, oh, I have all these thoughts. Well, no, actually, if you're in depression or you're living in shame or guilt, your thoughts are identical to everyone else who's in depression, shame, or guilt. Now, the story, your mind will change the story, like, be, this person or that person, or this specific situation that I lived through that caused me this, or, harmed me or some way. But it's the victim mentality of like you did. But those thoughts are basically identical across people. If you're in an angry state, you're going to have angry thoughts and they're going to be identical to every other angry person. The target of your anger will be, this or that, but it's the same. If you're in a loving state, your thoughts are the same as everyone else in a loving state. We're all like, oh, that's peace and love. And I'm so happy. I'm going to help everyone. So once you understand that your thoughts are just a reflection of the level of vibration that you are existing at, and we all have a baseline and we all move up and down. Like, it's not, we're humans. So
Yep.
we have, it's like a sine curve, but the middle of it, the base state is where we live. Like that's our come from. That's our base. So our objective ought to be to clear distortion so that our base state can move up. And we're still going to have up and downs, but you move that base state up and your thoughts change, your emotions change. And then once you realize like, oh, that's just a thought, like the get out of the bed on the wrong side. If I had a negative thought, which now almost never happens, but because my base state is at a different level. But if I did, and when it did, if you don't energize that thought, you say, okay, my friend Danny is a great integration coach, and she uses this analogy, which I love. But think about like dating apps where swipe left and swipe right. Think about your thoughts that way. Say, nope, nope, nope. Bring me something better. Yep. Okay. So now I have a positive thought, something that is aligned with where I want to be.
Yeah.
Now energize that one. And if you energize that one, the cascade works in that direction. So we have a choice. And so I guess the biggest change for me was realizing that the average human has like 80 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and they're not ours. And so once you realize that, you can just observe them. You can pick which ones you want to energize. And that was a big shift for me. And same thing with emotions. Emotions just another form of energy, right? It's just
Yep.
and they tie together, right? A negative thought can create an emotion. An emotion can start creating negative thoughts, right? So they're very much tied together, but they're just energy fields. And if once you realize that, okay, well, I'm feeling this sadness. I had a example, I had a dream and it brought back some old memories, and I sat out here and was writing in my journal, and I kind of wrote out what I had, and all of a sudden I had this intense feeling of like sadness, but it was really a release of energy, and my tears started coming down my eyes, and I'm like, okay, I didn't get lost in the feeling. I just says like, okay, this is good. This is great, actually. Let that go. Like, because
Yeah.
we have stacks of these things built in. And so we want to let them out. And they don't go away unless you release them and you have to experience them. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I was like happy and present and crying. And then it just kind of dissipated. And I was like, oh, that was cool. And I wrote down like that was freaking awesome. But if you can get where you have a little bit of separation from what you're experiencing as a human with who you really are, which is the witness to it and understanding it, then you have incredible power to remain calm in a difficult situation, to decide which direction you want to go in a tough situation or a challenging moment that's in dealing with others or dealing with a situation that's in the world. And if we can do that, all the time, then we'd be the Buddha, I guess. But
Yeah. But do you think
along the way, there's a continuum of being closer to that.
it's true? But do you think that people have to go through a certain journey before they can swipe left and swipe right? Because I think people have to work to that. And
Yeah, it's not instant, and it took a lot of meditation, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of uncovering a lot of trauma and memories, but not just uncovering them and sitting with them and being able to be present with them. Because what happens is you've got these stacks, these emotional energy hairballs stuck inside that are like things you couldn't process at the time. They're stuck, and
which I call distortions, you call them energy
yeah,
purples. Yeah.
same, just
Yeah.
different words for the same
Yeah.
thing. But those are things that they're a distortion in your energy flow. So this emotional energy hairball is stuck somewhere in the body, in the head, somewhere in our etheric body, and it's blocking the flow of divine energy until we can release it. Now, there's different ways to release it. One is remembering what actually happened, forgiving, processing it. That's not the only way. I mean, there's lots of energy healing techniques, and and you do, but which is just about letting that energy flow, and you don't need to remember the specifics. It doesn't matter what the specifics were. It's just processing that, and you can kind of feel it in your body, like when you feel an emotion, and if you can kind of be present, where in the body am I feeling that? Is it in my side? Is it in my hip? Is it in my head? Usually there's some spot. And if you can just be present with that spot and put your attention to it and feel it fully, it will dissipate. And as it dissipates, you're basically clearing it. And that doesn't necessarily come with like the memory of that trauma that happened. It can just clear. I think there's some of those traumas that, depending on the level of it and how much is built on top of it, it is important to actually recognize what it was and what karmically we were supposed to learn from those things. I think some of them are things that we should face and understand, and a lot of them are not. Like you can just process it and clear it, and it's ongoing. It's not like I'm done.
Exactly.
Things come up,
Yeah.
and you got to keep processing it. And if the more we can be present with whatever's coming, you process it in the moment. You don't store it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, we talked about this on your podcast is that we have those events. Maybe we're young, maybe we're older, maybe it's on our journey to becoming a CEO or a leader or to our career, whatever our aspirations are. And we have these distortions that form based on that initial threat to identity, credibility, authority, or security, safety.
Mhm.
And that's the origin. And I think we get a lot of distortions that happen because of those scripts. And it was interesting to me when you were talking about a certain energy that anger is, or love, or depression. And so, because they're an energy impression to you, they're a pattern to me. Like I see an actual pattern. And
Yeah,
and I totally agree with you. They're all the same. Like
yeah,
that particular um, anger, depression, um, defensiveness is all the pattern. And
yeah.
so it's just interesting that you look at it from energy and I look at it from it's a pattern and I see it through language and the somatic system and
Yeah,
posture.
and it's actually just one thing. It's the presence or blocking of love.
Yeah.
So at different levels of blockages, we experience anger, shame, guilt, whatever. Like, anger, shame, guilt, those are some of the lowest energetic levels. What do I mean by that? Well, you've blocked, there's less love flowing through you because you've blocked it. Anger is actually a higher energy level, and anger is actually can be a good thing because it can cause someone to be motivated to get out of whatever circumstance they're in, and it's more energy. But as you go up the continuum, you're basically clearing the blockages to love. So it's just one thing, but it's just how much distortion and blockages do we have?
Yeah, that's interesting. And how do you have you ever been in a room where someone is either presenting to you or you're presenting to someone where you feel them distorting or you feel them, you're not experiencing them because something is happening? And how do you deal with that?
Well, anytime I flip and see a politician give a talk, I see the distortion that's happening right there. But we don't need to go there, but that's true.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so much manipulation and stuff that's happening that, they're tapping into energy fields um,
yeah,
that are lower, and you can see the manipulation of what they're doing.
yeah,
So it's quite obvious. And so when someone's being honest and truthful in whatever they're presenting, I can feel that. And when someone is, um, you know, telling a tale that is to try to cover something or to manipulate people, I can feel that. So yeah, that's a pretty normal thing for me. It's pretty easy. I mean, the reality is there's no secrets, and at a certain level, and you see energies, you see people's colors and patterns, right? There's really there's no secret. The universe knows everything, knows every hair on our head, every thought we ever had, everything ever happened to us or we did, and what our intentions were at that time. And intention is probably the most important aspect, right? You're it's We don't control the outcomes, but we could do control our intention. But those are all like at a certain level of consciousness, they're transparent, and they're transparent to the universe always. And as humans, we have blockages, so we can't really see that. But when we clear those blockages, you see it. So anyone that thinks like, oh, no one knows this about me, well, actually, you're an energetic footprint with a pattern that is transparent to everybody who can see. And um, there's no secrets. So
well,
that's
yeah.
either a comforting thought or a very disturbing thought for
Well,
people.
for some, I think it's pretty disturbing. And I because I find that when there's a little bit of pressure in the room, especially for CEOs, leaders, people of high profile, they it reveals everything and they don't always notice. So they think that people don't, oh, how did you know that? I'm not psychic. It's not woo. You have a very strong pattern and people actually feel it. And I think the less self-aware we are, the stronger the pattern is when there's pressure in the room. And because it really does surface it. And so using your lens, it would be that energy that would be hanging there. Like I would see it as a shadow. And I'm not sure how you feel it, but for me it's shadow and um well, different shades of shadow. But
Yeah.
it just when there's pressure in the room, it just always surfaces. And so I always find it interesting when people think, but I'm telling you this, but nobody knows this about me.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, honestly, but every human on earth runs autopilot. We all do it because we've all had something that our brain has said, yeah, this worked before, use this,
Hmm.
right? Because we didn't know any better. So that's why I think that it's important, especially the book that you've written, that if CEOs have not started any kind of self-discovery journey, that your book is a very good place to start because it can start them on the awareness trail. So at least they know what their options are. Like sometimes people don't even know where to start. I would not have known where to start if it wasn't for AI, actually. I just started asking questions and all of a sudden, oh, I can go get this book or that book, or I should look at this. I mean, there's so much that you can do now. And I wish that I'd had something like your book because it would have been more of a direct path of, oh, these are good options. Oh, this, I like this, I don't like that. So
Yeah,
I just,
that's part of the part of the problem, Leanne, is that we have access to everything now, which is a great benefit, and everything isn't truthful. So it's discernment of which things, it's the curation of all of that stuff that's out there, that sets you on the right path or the wrong path, because it's there's a lot of distorted material out there. There's distorted material in the Bible. There's distorted material throughout history. When they had around the time of the Council of Nicaea, and they voted, which books got to be in the Bible and which books didn't.
right.
They got rid of the ones that talked specifically about direct connection to divinity and realizing God within. And so that's the Gnostic teachings and some of those books that didn't make it, right? And so it's not that the Bible's overall like integrous, it's quite useful, but there are certain books in it that are not integrous versus others. So, that would be offensive to some people, but it's, these are humans who put these together. And some of those humans were negative beings who were there to try to corrupt the what was the pure Christianity, which the first 300 or 400 years after Christ was very pure. The Desert Fathers, there's a whole lineage of the people that it was very pure, and then it basically got distorted a bit, and it was about power, because it was the merger of the Roman
Absolutely.
Empire with the Catholic Church. And so it was about, oh, you have to ask the priest, you have to go to the Pope decides. Well, that's not what Jesus said. The works I do are the works you will do. It was about realizing divinity within.
Yeah. And it's absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So it is the insertion of power and level in between ourselves and whatever our God is. It's that insertion point
Yeah,
that,
and I'm a big fan of David Hawkins, who wrote Power versus Force and a lot of other books. And his basic premise, power versus force, the power he talks about is divine power.
right.
And all of the distorted power is really force, and force is never
Yeah.
lasting. But you can get certain things done, but you're working against the universe. In power, you're working with it.
Yeah. In everyday terms, I call it command
Yeah.
because that's how it shows up in everyday. But it's true. And I think that power, because like you said, divine power is coming from a place of love and connection. And there's someone that was a client, Danny Assef, who has written several books. And one thing he said to me once was he realized when his kids were born, and he's very self-aware, that he worried by his second and third child that, oh my God, like, do I have enough space to love like three, four kids, right? And he said, and the great news is that people can have all the money in the world, all access to all resources and money and all of the luxury things. And the one thing that is unlimited and free every single day is love. And people treat it like it's limited, and it's not. You can have as much of it as you want. And I actually started crying when he said that, because I thought, I wish more people would realize that, because it's so true. I've never thought about it like that. I mean, Alan and I both come from a place of love.
Yeah.
But I've never thought about people thinking that it's a limited resource. I mean, we're not talking romantic love. We're not saying love everybody,
It's
but
it's so unlimited. It's everything. It is what makes it is flowing through everybody and everything. It is what makes the trees and the plants and the mountain behind me and you and I. It's everywhere, and you can have as much as you want, because it is everything.
it
And
is.
it's just, how much of it do we block out? That's our choice. That's our existence in this realm.
Yeah. And do you ever notice that? Because I'm still very wishing I had a backdrop like you, because I'm sorry that you have to stare into my white wall with my giraffe.
Listen, come to Sedona. There's a house right over there for sale. You can come here.
Yeah, how would that Canadian US thing work? I'm not so sure anymore.
Uh, I don't know. There's ways. There's ways.
I might have to delete my entire email. Um, joking, joking. I don't spend time actually on negative things. I don't spend time propagating negative, criticizing, judging. It's useless time for me, but
Well, it comes right back to you. Whatever you put out, it comes back to you. So if you spend time on, and you can notice things. It's okay to notice things. It's okay to call things
oh,
out, be truthful, call things out when you see complete lies in public life,
yes.
whatever. It's okay, but if you dwell on it, you're basically propagating that energy. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's important for people to be aware that there is a lot of distortion out there, and how do you recognize it? How do you, um, we don't. It's not about fighting good versus evil. It's about recognizing love and raising above the polarities of these arguments that we're having as humans and things, and finding a path and the only solution to things is raising above the polarities, right? So you've got to be above the fray, and but recognizing is fine, but putting energy into it is, you're exactly right. Like, it doesn't. That's why you like gossip. Like, gossip hurts the gossiper.
Yeah,
If you're talking about somebody, you're hurting yourself. Honestly, you're like, you send a negative thought to somebody, they can accept it and it still hurts you, or they can be immune to it, where they don't accept any false thoughts or any energies that are coming your way, and it bounces off them and comes back to you like 10x or 100x. So you send someone like you wish them harm or something, and if they're at a certain level, that's just going to bounce right back to you at 10x, and you're going to cause yourself harm.
because you're
So
holding it, right?
yeah, and it's actually a thing. Thoughts are forms, right? They're energetic forms, and if you think hard enough, it's a real thing, and it goes to whatever you're thinking about, but it comes back to you because we're in there's like one field of energy, one consciousness, and you get to experience what you're putting out. So put out love.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think you said on your podcast that anger and resentment is sending that out to people is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die.
I don't know if I said that, but I agree with it completely.
Okay. I thought you said it. Maybe I just
It, no, it's
heard it
true.
somewhere else.
No,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
No, I agree. Well, because I agree with it. And I think that it's important to remember that because what that's really saying is we are holding it. Being resentful and angry at someone that obviously if you feel they've done something to make you feel that way, they're not feeling your anger and resentment. Like they're
Yeah, you
immune
know
to
what I
it.
did say? That is the same. It's the parallel to that, which is, forgiveness is for the forgiver.
Yeah,
So in forgiving, it's not for the person you're forgiving; it's for you. And
exactly.
it's like, I mean, it's saying the same thing, but it's like the antidote to the poison of resentment, anger, whatever, is forgiveness. And as you forgive, you've clarified yourself.
Yeah.
So that goes back to your question earlier that I don't know if I finished, but people can't just go like, oh, I'm going to notice my thoughts and my emotions, and I'm just going to swipe left, swipe right. There is a process of purification that happens that is about clearing your own field. And it's hard to be present and notice your thoughts and emotions when you have a lot of distortions,
Yeah.
right? So you got to do the work to clear shadows and that stuff. And it always sounds worse than it is. And what comes on the other side is so worth it. It's so worth it. It's so much better than holding on to those things. So when you can clear that stuff, that's when you can get to this swipe left, swipe right, be present, be aware. So there is a purification process that people have to go through, and you'll go through it one way or another. Whether you're going to do it, while we're living and be able to experience divine love in this realm, in this lifetime, or when you die, you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're going to, maybe you'll have a chance to repeat or, try to redo things that you didn't clear during your life. But if you can do it earlier, it's a really positive thing.
Yeah. And I think so exactly. And I think the perspective also that we were coming from when we built the calibration for CEOs was that sometimes when we don't understand what's happening, because there's pressure in the rooms, like there's some certain level CEOs or not even CEOs, VCs or investment people, they're in so many rooms and it can be costing them like a lot of money and reputation and extra meetings. And if they're not already on a self-discovery journey, then because you're being experienced, probably you should think about dealing with some of that. So this is just, it's more of a guided path, right? To get them to origin of
Yeah.
some of the distortions. But I love what you said about having an awareness of that. And like you were happy when you talked about, I'm just going back to when you talked about that thing that dream that you had that you woke up sad. You felt the sadness, but you were happy. Like that hit me really hard because I think when we're processing, and I don't know, should I call it leveling up, or we're processing things that we're recognizing that we didn't have access to before,
Yeah.
that it's okay to, like, I've had that happen to me since I spoke to you. This is funny. Since I spoke to you, I think it has happened to me 10 times. And it was only about a week and a half ago or so
Yeah.
that we spoke.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's interesting to me when you have a positive exchange and talk about energy clearing and distortion clearing and things like that. We almost open ourselves up to some of those things. It's like we get to a different area,
Yeah.
let's say, and it really doesn't end. It doesn't end. Like some people say things to me that I just experience and they make me emotional. And yes, I'm crying, but I'm actually feeling very happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And poor Lola, my dog, she's always looking at me like doing this with her head because she doesn't know if I'm happy or sad. Should she bring me a toy or should she lick my face? You know, like she's just not sure. And I think dogs are also a good indicator of what they feel from us, right? They feel our nervous system.
Oh yeah. I mean, I did Greg Braden's retreat here in Sedona a few weeks ago, and he's got it was great. It was way better than I expected. It exceeded my expectations. It was awesome. But what he told a story about his mom and her dog, and that the dog was having um, was having was having issues. They took him to the vet, and the dog had these tumors in it. Um, and he said, Mom, have you gotten checked out? And she's like, no, no, no. And finally, he got her to go, and she got a whole scan and everything, and she had a big tumor. And they were able to work with that and treat her, and she healed, and the dog healed. And so our animals reflect us. Down in South America, I can't remember, Peru or one of these countries, these shaman do a ceremony where it sounds kind of awful, but this is how they do it. They take a guinea pig and they scan it across a person's body who's sick, who they're doing a treatment on, and they do this for a little bit, and then they, I guess, humanely or whatever, but they kill the guinea pig, and then they cut it open, and they're able to see everything in the body of the guinea pig of where the problem is with the person, because the guinea pig absorbs that energy like in that time, and that's how they work on treatments and things. So our animals are very aware of us. They are a reflection of us, and they are feeling our distortions and where we don't have them.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I
That's
know. You can look it up. It's a
no,
real
no, I
thing.
believe you. I believe you. I just don't, I'm just shocked. Like I've never heard of that and it's amazing. Like, I mean, I know, like how fast does that happen? Right
I
away.
guess it happens very quickly. I haven't experienced it directly, but it makes sense to me.
Oh no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I've had enough dogs and animals and how they communicate, how they tap into our nervous system for sure. that you
Yeah.
can almost communicate without saying anything. And
Yeah.
with just a look, right? It's like she'll look at me and I'll know she's scared, or I'll look at her and she'll know, oh, I better not do that. But I'm not looking at her any differently than I just look at her, right? But she
Yeah.
somehow knows. So I'm not disagreeing with it. I just think it's fascinating. So what was the biggest change? So I'm assuming you took some time off work when you were going through all of the initial part of your self journey, self discovery.
Ye- Yes and no. I mean, I transitioned to, doing M&A, which was a very different role than running companies. And it gave me a lot of flexibility. When you're running a business, you've got, a lot, you have direct reports, you've got a business to run, you've got, a lot of things that suck up your time
Yeah.
enormously. And unless you're really, really good at delegation and managing things in a proper way, which the best CEOs have time, they aren't overbooked. They actually have time in their schedule, but that's very rare, right? It's hard to do. And you always have people coming at you, coming at you. So it's really hard to take time off. In As a partner at STS Capital, we sell companies. We have intense times when we're doing a transaction, we're helping a client, with a great exit, and there are moments in that cycle of a deal where it's very intense and takes a lot of time. But there's also a lot of flexibility and downtime. So I had just shifted into that, and so I kind of had flexibility. It was, I had some deals. I never stopped working, but I had a little bit more flexibility to work on me, work on the things I was working on,
Yeah.
and then I've just built that into my routine. So I'm getting more done today. I'm doing more deals, having more success, more closes, more clients coming to me. More, all that is like really positive. I've got a podcast. I'm getting out and doing public speaking, and I spend a lot of time meditating. I spend a lot of time reading, writing, working on stuff, and then spending time go visiting I have the third grandkid since we talked. So three
Wow.
grandkids now,
Congratulations.
four adult kids that live around. We spend time with family. So I'm doing more of those things and getting more done. And that is how it works, actually. I mean, it's not about the time you put in, it's about if you can get in the flow of things, there's no limit to what can be achieved. But I don't miss morning meditations, my morning sauna, my morning hot tub, my hikes, you know, being outside, doing those things throughout every day. I don't miss them. Every once in a while I'm traveling and it's a little bit harder, but I still will meditate in my hotel room.
Yeah.
You know, I'll still get out and do a walk no matter where I am if I can. So it just becomes, and it's not even trying to do it anymore. It's just that's just how I am, right?
It becomes a way of life.
Yeah,
Well, because you have the benefit from it. And once you get the benefit from something, then you want to keep doing it, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
journaling, like
Mhm.
meditation. I have a hard time meditating, but I do things in my own way. If I try to be quiet and still, my ND brain 25 tabs go off at the same time. But I found
Yeah.
other ways to quiet my mind. So just different perspective, I suppose. I did try though.
Well,
I
so
just think it's the getting into the habit, because once you see the benefit
yeah,
and the results, once you start on a journey, then but you have to be really wanting to do it. Like
Mhm.
people, I think what people miss is unless you're aware enough to say something has to change, or I want to get better, or I don't like my life the way it is because it's too busy. I'm I have success, but I don't have happiness. Like I don't feel like I'm achieving, like so many CEOs I have heard say, I have all of the material things that I've ever wanted. Huge success, huge stress, a lot of problems, and I'm not fulfilled. So then what? Then
Yeah,
what? Well, you have to look inside.
right. Because all at the end of the day, all of fulfillment and peace and love comes from within. It's recognizing that. And if to the degree we're projecting that on things, accomplishments, people, which is what we all do as humans, we're chasing it, and it actually resides right here, right? And so once you realize that, it's not that you don't enjoy and experience being with people and doing things and achieving things. It's fun, but you're completely content regardless. It's like I'm happy or with or without people. I'm perfectly happy being alone and also happy being with people. uh, and it's okay either way, and it's not detachment, but it's unattachment, right? So it's not like you're not like in the world. You can be in the world and
Of course.
experience it fully, but it's not being attached to this or that or achieving this or making that money or buying that car or whatever it is. I will say I am kind of attached to being here in Sedona and that mountain behind me. But
I would be
um,
too. I would be
but
too.
I was in New York a couple weeks ago for a big family office event, and was walking through Times Square, and it was mayhem. It was the Knicks, the week the Knicks won the series, and it was a lot of craziness. But I was like, okay, I can be completely content and calm walking through Times Square, just observing everybody. Now, would I want to be in that environment all the time? No, I wouldn't, because I think you have to create space because we're humans and we do react to the energy we're around. You have to try to create space that is, sanctified or it is protected.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do in a place like this, in a home like ours, is just like, we've made it a space like that. But you can do it anywhere. I think it gets a little bit harder in certain places than others.
Yeah. And I, w- I love that comparison. And I just thought of something when you were talking, is that I've seen a lot of people, not just CEOs, but a lot of people rely on other people for their happiness or or blame, right? Like it's never, they don't take responsibility for themselves. And it just struck me what you said was I'm happy on my own. I'm self-sufficient in how I operate as a spiritual being. And I also love being around people. And I think that's so healthy for people to understand because too many times people put their happiness, um, their inadequacies maybe on some, they do the blame game. And so I'm curious if you could say one thing to not just CEOs, but anybody who's looking to be happier, looking for more meaning, other than buy your book. What would you say?
um, I honestly, I think a building a simple practice of some kind of meditation is a really good place to start. And even if you're like you feel like you are, it was hard for me to meditate in the beginning too. Like I had thoughts going crazy and stuff. You don't need to do it for hours upon time, but just taking 5 minutes, taking 10 minutes and being silent and let your thoughts, like, just observe them. If you can just observe it, like be
Exactly.
aware of, like, oh, my
Yeah,
thoughts are going crazy. That's okay. Just be aware of them. And then you can begin to recognize, well, who's aware of those thoughts? Those thoughts aren't me. So the thoughts can keep going. It's okay. Just don't chase them. Just be aware of them. Keep coming back to, okay, that's happening. If you do it for short periods of time on a regular basis, it gets easier. And at some point, um, you know, it changes you, right? So I think in the stillness, it's not so much silence, the stillness of meditation, at some point we're the clutter and the thoughts and all this stuff gets out of the way, and we're kind of seeing divine reality, and we become it. We become a mirror of it. So, and then meditation turns into just being contemplative in your everywhere, like in your life. So it turns into like the meditation evolves to where you're aware of yourself in every circumstance. I'm aware that we're having this conversation, but I'm aware of it and I'm having the conversation.
Right.
And so as that happens, it changes how you become less mechanical, less reactive, and you're able to be present with whatever's happening. And whether it's a high pressure room or it's some kind of interpersonal turmoil or fight or whatever, you just can be present to it so you're not reacting. And that's, 70+% of humanity is below 200 on this Hawkins consciousness scale, which is they're below integrity, right? They're living in these different lower levels of consciousness and they have no free will. They are reactive. They're mechanical. As Gurdjieff
Exactly.
said, in The Fourth Way, they are basically animalistic. They just are reacting to whatever's in front of them. And so they have no free will until they become aware of this, and then they can raise their consciousness and they have choices.
Yeah.
So most of people just are who they are. So you can also, it's a good perspective to understand because it can give you, you can have compassion for all the nonsense that's out there. They are just who they are. And they're on a journey just like all of us are. And some of those people are, it's not better than or worse than, it's where they are in their journey.
Yeah.
So, some might be in pre-K, some might be in fifth grade, some might be in eighth grade, some might be in high school, some might be in postdoctoral studies. And this is just levels of consciousness. And it's not that a kindergartner is worse than or less good than someone who's a PhD person. They're just earlier in their journey, and that's how humanity is. So most of these people who are at these lower levels are mechanical, animalistic, reactive. It's not that they're bad, it's that they are earlier in their journey of
Yeah.
consciousness. And so that's all it is. And so you can have compassion, like, oh, I see where they are. And you can see it, right? You can really tell, like, oh, that's where they are. It also informs you how to deal with them. Because if we have to deal with them, which we're in the world together, then, you don't talk to them in a way that they're not going to understand. It's not that you go to their level, but you go to close enough to their level where they'll understand. If you speak to them here, I talk about oneness and unity and divine presence to someone who's living in shame and anger and, survival. That's not going to make sense to them. You don't jump from there to there, but hey, everything's going to be okay. Here's some things that you could do that might help you, focus on the future, focus on something that you can do tangibly in your life. You change the way you talk about it. And our countries make those mistakes. These countries are at different consciousness levels and the governments, and you can't deal with a government that's run by a primordial, religious sect that is, treats women and dogs the same way and has a certain view of the world. You can't treat them and make deals with them the same way you can do with a evolved economy, Japan that's, very, very conscious of people, treats their people, uniformly, cares about those are very different situations. And, in the West, a lot of us just like, we think all people are people. Well, that's just stupid. It makes no sense. It's not the way it is.
I know. And I just saw the yellow illuminator in you
Oh, you
by
did?
that whole statement. By recognizing people are on a different part of the path and speaking to them so they can see the path in front of them instead of where you are on the path. And that's so important because if you speak to where you are on the path, then they have no clue what you're talking about. But if
Right.
you can speak to understanding and speak to where they are on the path, where they will have understanding, which is compassion, which comes from a place of love, then they see the path.
Yeah.
Whereas,
And
right?
you can only see the level you're at and below.
Yes, exactly.
So wherever you are, you could see that level and you could see below you. So think about that. Well, okay, if you're at a different level, you have to communicate properly, and you have to speak in language that they can relate to, that they can see, because they won't see it. And there's levels that I don't see. I have no, like, the levels go up infinitely and I don't see them because I'm not there yet. And so, like, it's, coming at it with pure humility, but it's really easy to see, a lot of humanity where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the funny thing. I could talk to you for another hour too, whatever, but you've given me so much time. So we will have all of the things for your book. And, I could have you on as a weekly guest, I think. But thank you for spending the time.
The Leanne and Smoke
Take the time.
Show. It's a
Yeah.
spin-off of our podcast. It's yeah.
Seriously, though, I mean, how much we could talk about is always amazing to me. So thank you for your time. It's been a lot of time.
Yeah, no, it's been fun, and I agree. I can talk to you anytime, and I'll have you back on mine. So we'll just do it like periodically, and um, you know, and just keep the conversation going.
Exactly.